This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. DocNJock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out FanaticU.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wings shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, FanaticU.com.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Episode 154, DocNJock on the airwaves. Thank you for downloading another episode. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, left fielder for Vito's charity softball game. Great performance. Good reviews all around. Adam, the Jock, Strozinski in the house. What's up, cuz?
Dude, he did a great job putting that on. Very short time, that guy sat there, threw everything together, did a phenomenal job. I went 2 for 4, which probably isn't so great in softball, but I played left field like a pro. We threw a shift on, ball sat there, got hit to a gap, and made a nice running catch. Looked like a stud out there.
So you got to play left field. You went 2 for 4, and Vito, like I said, you know, once we met him, once we went down to the University of Detroit Mercy, went on his college radio show, we had a good time, and he was just a kid that you could tell loved sports, and then he was one of the rare individuals still to this day that reached out to me and was like, I want to do a podcast. Let's make this happen. And so knowing that we're pretty much easy to get a hold of, it's not that hard, he reached out and said, hey, I want to do this. And he's doing a podcast with us. He's doing charitable work. He writes periodically for the Free Press and other blogs. And he's just doing his thing, man. And that's why a guy like Vito, you got to gravitate towards. He's a good kid. He takes things in stride. He takes jokes from me in stride. And he's got a super fan out there, Steve, that just loves to critique, loves to praise, and he just takes it all in stride. And Vito has the makeup of someone that's going to do big things. And I couldn't believe when he said, I'm doing a charity game, I'm putting it together, I got shirts, I got these contacts, hey. So I originally committed to just give $30 to enter 2 people. And I'm like, you know what, this kid's working hard. He's done great things for us and the network. He's, talking us up everywhere, and he's just going around making contacts, telling everybody that he's in contact with about us. I'm like, you know what? No big deal. I'll just drop $100 and make sure that we promote it as much as he can. And he met his goal, and it really makes me excited. And I know you excited as well. Maybe next year to even try and double that. I think that's a realistic goal. Is next year, if the Chirco Company softball game happens, we should try and definitely get more contributions and put more behind it, more wind in the sails from DSP.
Absolutely. When I came in, I told you he did a phenomenal job, did a great job. And I said, he's talking about doing it again next year. Next year, we've got to make it bigger and better. And whatever we can do as a station, as a network, we need to sit there and we need to do that. We need to get behind him and push it and try to, like you said, double, triple, maybe quadruple that money that he brought in this year for it.
Okay, so the pictures I posted on Twitter,
yes,
on our Twitter page, @Detroit Podcast. The first one is, it looks like a foul ball, and it looks like you read it and you tried to jump up for it. In the picture, we can't tell yet had you made the catch. You jumped up maybe 2 inches off the ground, which is very good. I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, nice ups there. So is that the same picture, the same hit that follows up with the picture with the ball in the glove, or is it different play?
I'm not sure.
Well, here's the photo. Did you catch this ball?
Yes, I did catch that ball.
Okay.
And the reason I was jumping up is because I ran in too far on the ball.
It looks like something looks off because it doesn't look like exactly a smooth transition from the ball into your glove.
I ran up on it a little bit too close, so I had to jump up to make sure I caught it. I did catch that one. I think that one ended an inning. That other picture there, I read the ball correctly. I made a nice grab on that one, and I think that one was in the following inning.
Was that like a high fly ball that came down quickly? Because you look a little intense in this photo, in the second photo, for just a regular foul ball. You're looking like you're like, getting like you have a tense face and very intense in this photo of you catching the softball.
No, you know what it was? There was the lineup that Vito put together. The other team they basically had a murderer's row, where they had like 4 guys who could just sit there and blast the ball all the way into the outfield. And I was playing basically no doubles. You know what I'm saying? I was as deep as I could be. So a couple of these I had to run up on. So I think the intensity that you're talking about is I was in the middle of running up onto the ball to make that catch. Because a couple of them, they got a hold of it. It was going. So I was playing about as deep as I could play. And those kind of got hit right between third base and shortstop and myself. So I had to run up on them.
So you did okay. Did your guys' softball team win the game?
Here's the deal. We had a 7-2 lead.
I'm sorry.
No. We had a 10-2 lead. It's much worse. We had a 10-2 lead. And somehow it just evaporated. We ended up losing the game on a walk-off single as the bases were loaded in the bottom of the seventh. We only played 7 innings. We ended up losing 11-10.
That is hilarious. That's the one question I didn't ask anybody was, what was the result of the game? And no score, I don't think, was posted. You had a lead.
When you talk to Vito, it's funny because there were a couple guys on our side who ended up taking it very serious, especially the later innings, because everybody wanted to get the W. And as it kind of went through, Vito was the manager. He was our Brett Ausmus. His one buddy was our Gene Lamont. Vito was he made some
questionable calls.
Yeah,
Call him out.
Some changes in the field that didn't necessarily help us. It kind of, those changes should not have been made at that time. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to kill Vito for it. I mean, it was all fun. It was a charity game. If you're going to sit there and you can get bent out of shape because you lose a game 10-11 with a walk-off single in a charity game, you got something else going on, bro. You know what I'm saying? But Vito did a very good job. Did a great job, especially managing the first 5 innings. Inning 6 and 7, there were a lot of question marks.
Well, great segue. Speaking of question marks, you have to sweep the Minnesota Twins if you're the Detroit Tigers. You have to. And then you have
You would think
that Minnesota is a team that's just really struggling right now. They're in turmoil in the organization. I know they're hitting the tar out of the baseball. You throw out Anibal Sanchez in game 2, and he gives you a decent performance. You see a guy that's struggling. He goes out there, gives you 6 strong innings. What do? The big decision.
Bring him out for the 7th.
You bring him out for the 7th inning. And that was a great question from our Twitter followers. I got a sprinkle of questions like, hey, do you bring him out? I'm like, no. He only gave up a run. And so then what happens?
What was he at, 92 or 98 pitches?
92 to 93 pitches. He comes out, and then what happens? And what do you think happens? What are the odds that he's going to have a great inning in the 7th? No, it doesn't happen.
He sets himself on fire.
2 guys on base. You bring in Rondon, and what does he do? And then it goes from 1-0 to 3-0.
He pulls out his flamethrower then.
And it's
next thing you know, Comerica Park's a burning inferno.
And then I guess we'll start with this and talking about the Detroit Tigers. Brad Ausmus, the second game versus Minnesota, didn't do a great job. The end of the game, right? You have a chance in the 9th inning. You're down 6-2. What happens? You got Mike Aviles up to bat. Why is Aviles batting in that spot when you have a situation?
On base, though.
Yes, true.
He sat there a lot. Okay, so this is the thing that Brad Ausmus does. Now, you always paint me into this corner where you make me a Brad Ausmus apologist, and I'm not a Brad Ausmus apologist, all right? But I understand what he's doing some of the time, all right? You're right. Mike Aviles probably shouldn't be playing as much as Mike Aviles has been playing. And every time he's out there, I scratch my head. I think the guy's got a great lineup. I think he rocks a sweet beard, and he's got forearms the size of freaking Gatorade bottles. They're massive, okay? Here's the deal, though. The splits against Kinsler? Kinsler was the relief pitcher for Minnesota. The splits against him, righties are smacking the crap out of the ball as opposed to lefties. And you're right, Mike Aviles probably shouldn't be up there, but Aviles is up there. He hits an absolute awful infield single. Absolutely atrocious. It falls between the catcher, home plate, and in the mound in the pitcher. Both the catcher and the pitcher collide as they go to get the ball. No throw can be made. Everybody is safe. You now have bases loaded, and you have 1 out. What do you want? What else do you want? That he went up there, he did his job. Nobody got out. He got on base. So what's your next issue?
Okay, well,
are you upset that McCann hit?
Exactly.
Again, righty-lefty splits. Righties are hitting the ball better than lefties. You want to put Salty up there? I get you. Because Salty sat there, had a great hit over the weekend where he sat there and he boomed it out of the park, and he sat there and he got your walk-off win for you. I understand that, and I get that, and I can see where you're coming from. But again, Ausmus is a baseball analyst type of guy. He goes by the numbers. Righty-lefties, he's going to go with his righty all day long. On top of it, McCann had a hit earlier in the day.
You don't think maybe Collins could have did something at that spot?
Well, see, now you're talking about moving all kinds of pieces around, and I don't think Ausmus wants to move all kinds of pieces around if you do get into extra innings. And I guess this is something else that you kind of spoke on way early in Brad Ausmus's tenure, is it always seems like he tries to play for extra innings instead of playing for the win, which is super frustrating. You sit there, you don't use your closer in the ninth inning when you're sitting there and you're down by one, and you've got the heart of your lineup coming up. You got Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, and Nick Castellanos waiting on deck to sit there and go up there and swing, and you're going to sit there and you're going to roll out just some left-handed specialist who gets you in trouble, and you end up giving up leads. So this is something that we've talked about before with Brad Ausmus, just the way he manages, though.
Right, and so we're nitpicking the ninth inning decision, but really the key decision, and the one that obviously was the worst decision in Tuesday's game, was allowing Anibal Sanchez to go back. I think you let him walk off the field, comfortable, 10 strikeouts. You bring him back, why? Why? Because now he leaves the game with 2 runners on, you put it on Rondon, and at that point, those 2 runners are assigned to Anibal Sanchez. Even though in the preview for that game, I thought that Sanchez would give up 3 runs and leave the game about 3-3. He only gave up 1, eventually 3, because Rondon let up those 2. So in the end, he gave up 3 runs, but he doesn't get, to leave the game feeling comfortable. And as we speak, we don't know if he's going to come back out there. It's just a tough spot. You should have let him walk off feeling comfortable. He did his job. But again, you have to way taper your expectations, because 10 strikeouts versus the Twins really doesn't mean that. He did a good job, but again, his manager didn't reinforce that, hey, walk off the field feeling good. It's just a bad decision.
Here might be the bigger issue. You bring in Bruce Rondon, who hasn't done the best when put in a tight situation, right? And that's about as tight as you can get at this point, because for some reason, the bats have gone cold against Minnesota, all right? They've struggled early on in this series. The bats can't hit the ball anywhere right now. Why don't you bring out a guy like Shane Green, who might be your best pitcher in your bullpen? Why not bring him out? Why are you going to put Bruce Rondon in that spot? You put Bruce Rondon in that spot, he fails. Again, you got to sit there and you got to look at what your pitching staff can do, and you got to put them in the best spots. And you know what? Brad Ausmus probably didn't do that day.
Exactly.
Probably didn't do that. But I'm a Mr. Fix-It kind of guy.
Okay, let's fix it.
Let me tell you why. Because if you look at the way this team has played since they've come back from the break, their losses have been when Mike Pelfrey and Anibal Sanchez has taken the mound. Do you realize the last time Anibal Sanchez has a win? April 28th.
Whoa.
Yeah. That long. Months. He's gone months without a W. So I'm here to adjust this rotation to help us get more W's than L's, because at this point in the season, the Tigers have to win series. It's all about winning series. If they're going to make any runs at taking over the AL Central, if they're going to sit there, make any runs at winning the wild card, any runs at just getting into the playoffs, they have to win series at this point. If they can sit there and they can play 600 baseball for the rest of the way through the season, I think you'd be feeling really comfortable, and I'd be feeling really comfortable about this team making the playoffs. So to help with that, Mike Pelfrey, a guy who I don't know why they brought him in. I have no clue what he's doing out there. I don't think he understands what he's doing out there. However, he does look really good in a Titleist baseball hat. I can say that much. I would move Mike Pelfrey into your spot start rotation, where he's sitting there relieving some of the young kids who I'm going to put into the starting rotation. Michael Fulmer needs a day off because you're sitting there. He's on an innings count, a pitch count. You're going to play Mike Pelfrey. For some reason, one of the young kids gets knocked around early on in an inning or two. You got to pull him out. You know what? Mike Pelfrey's your long relief guy. That's what I'm doing with Pelfrey. Anibal Sanchez, he's going back to your bullpen. Every time he's come out of the bullpen, he's looked solid. He's looked comfortable, which is really weird, because as a starting pitcher, to go to the bullpen and make that type of a transition, incredibly difficult. He's done it with some ease. He looks comfortable coming out of the bullpen. I know he wants to be in the starting rotation. He doesn't deserve to be there right now. So then what I'm doing is I am moving any two, whether it be Matt Boyd, Daniel Norris when he gets healthy. Again, you got Jordan Zimmerman, who's supposed to be coming back. Not sure what's going to happen there. I'm not sure if it's a groin, if it's a neck, if there's more going on. And then I've got Shane Green, who's been a stud coming out of the bullpen. And I know you don't want to sit there and you don't want to mess with your bullpen too much. I don't know if you're going to get a starting pitching arm at the trade deadline. They're going to make moves. Let's be honest. This team is going to make a move. They have to make a move. If they're going to be competitive, they've got to make a move. I don't know if they're going to be able to get a starter. Starters cost a lot of money. They cost a lot in players. They cost a lot with whatever you got, and you got to realize the Tigers don't have a great minor league system. I would move Shane Green into that starting rotation. Matt Boyd, Daniel Norris, Jordan Zimmerman, one of those guys as well. I would sit there, then go to the trade deadline, and I would probably move a guy like a Steven Moya to get another piece in here for my rotation, for my bullpen rotation, to help those guys out. And then right now you got Mike Pelfrey, your spot start, and you got Anibal Sanchez, who can come out and do some things for you.
See, now there's a little bit of a flaw in that you're hoping that those moves work out.
I know those moves will work out. I'm Mr. Fix It.
I say you're Mr. Hopeful.
I'm like duct tape.
See, here's the problem.
I can fix anything.
Pelfrey goes to the bullpen. You give up runs there. Sanchez is not reliable. You're saying take a guy out from the bullpen who's been successful, stick him in the starting rotation. I say you're causing a problem. I think Green should be the option that you just really take off the table.
There's a lot of moving pieces there, and I don't like that either. But again, this is the hand I'm dealt.
Yeah, this is the hand you're dealt. But moving Pelfrey to the bullpen is really concerning. He's a guy that even in the bullpen might be a flamethrower.
He's a spot start guy.
Exactly. Not even that. And not even that.
So you want to DFA him? I'm cool with that.
Yeah, we're all cool with not seeing Pelfrey and Sanchez on the mound anymore, no doubt. And it's really debatable. I'm really curious to really know, is it from Alavila or is it from Brad Ausmus? Because they're giving him way too many chances. And I know he was trending a little bit better the last couple starts before the All-Star break, but that start that he had versus KC was disastrous. It was terrible. He had no rhythm. His pitches were all over the place, and he got rocked and no chance to win. Sanchez at least gave you really a reliable start versus Minnesota, but going forward, you're not confident that he's going to do that. So sticking him in the bullpen is basically the only solution you have. The problem is you need really a combination of Norris, Boyd, or anybody else to fill that 4 spot. And at the trade deadline, you have to go out and get a 5th starter. I think 4 you can make patchwork. 5 can be the guy that you can go outside the organization and bring in, whether you're willing to trade Moya, a Jimenez, someone from the current rotation, an everyday player.
Jacoby Jones, he's in your minor league system. People are high on him, but he's got a little bit of a troubled past.
Exactly. Now, you could really realistically be comfortable with Zimmerman, Verlander, Fulmer. And we have to really wait and see how many innings they're going to start limiting Fulmer as we go down the stretch. But if he continues with this stuff that he's exhibiting, it's going to be really hard. I really want to see how they're going to maneuver this inning limitation. But the one
thing you can say about him, too, he's a bigger guy. He looks like he's built like a brick shit house. Let's be honest. He is strong. He's a solid cat. He might be able to give you a little bit more than what you would normally take with a pitcher who's a little bit more of a slender body, a little bit smaller. It looks like his body can handle the physical wear and tear of going a little bit longer.
Let me bring something up to you, and I think I'm starting to pinpoint why maybe they haven't brought up Jimenez. Because don't you think now that Moya's come up and we see him play like you in the outfield?
Hey.
I know I was going to put that in.
Yeah.
Steven Moya slow in the outfield.
I didn't sit there and misplay any baseballs out there, all right?
It looks bad, dude. Oh, my God. That botched play in the series versus Kansas City, oh, my goodness. He pissed a lot of people off with that.
He looks like a fish out of water, man.
And so now you would say you could have maybe got more for Steven Moya at the beginning of the year than you do now. So maybe you just keep Jimenez in the minors, let the hype build, and if you want to sell off, you sell him off at the highest point and get someone maybe like a 5th starter and maybe another prospect in return. I think that's why everyone's rushing like, put in Jimenez. Hey, he comes to the major leagues and he stinks it up the first couple times. Maybe the adjustment's not there, and you just go from a guy that you could have maybe got Andrew Miller for to a guy that you go,
here's the thing with Joe Jimenez. He's only got 1 pitch. I mean, he's dominant with it. I mean, he is. If you go and you look at his stats,
1 pitch Joe,
pretty much. It's incredible what he's been able to do with his fastball. It is unbelievable. I think he's only given up 2 hits the entire year, and he's basically been fast-tracked from low minor league ball up into Erie. So he's on the right path, but the problem is he only has the 1 pitch. They want him to develop a changeup. They want him to develop another pitch to be able to get out of a jam, and he hasn't done that yet. That's why he's not here right now. And we've talked about, we've got a guy like Mark Lowe. Everybody hates Mark Lowe. Why is Mark Lowe out there? There's another guy who just rolls around in kerosene and then goes and plays with a book of matches. You know what I'm saying? Just setting himself on fire and burning everything down. So why not bring him up and put Joe Jimenez in his place? Can't be any worse, right? It can, because this guy might be your closer for the future. You need him to develop a secondary pitch at least 1. You would hope it'd be a changeup. That way his arm slot and his release and his delivery doesn't have to change too much from his fastball, which he murders everybody with. So they don't want to rush him because they don't want to have some damaged goods. But you're right. If you're going to make a trade, Steven Moya was probably worth a little bit more. Here's the thing. There's a lot of potential with that bat. And a lot of teams are like the Tigers. They see that strong, powerful bat. They're willing to trade you something now for something that they think that they can develop and build on later. He just has to be able to read a baseball off the bat. It sounds like it's very simple. It's much more difficult than what I make it out to be. He just has to get better at it.
So Moya and Jimenez can get you something back in return.
Possibly.
And so that's why probably Jimenez isn't being rushed back. But if he's still on the roster after the trade deadline, then it's likely, I think now more than not, you're going to see him in September.
For sure.
But now, you know what else could help the starting rotation? Some offense. You can't have a stretch where Upton, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, the absence of J.D. Martinez, the offense has taken a dive, and it's just unfortunate because you really can help out your starting pitchers. You can make a starting pitcher look great when, hey, you just have that vibe with some pitchers like Fulmer. When he goes out there, he may give up a run or two. You don't feel like, hey, we're completely out of the game because he's likely to shut it down and he's likely to get some run support. But the rest of the rotation right now, how uncomfortable must you be when you know that if you give up 2 or 3 runs, it's pretty much the ballgame right now? Miguel Cabrera is really struggling at this point in time. A lot of people are focusing in on him and wondering, oh boy, is this the end? Are we starting to see the beginnings of the decline at the age of 33? I'm a little bit nervous, but I still have that hope because, you know, a guy that's a professional hitter, a guy that's done it before, you still give the benefit of the doubt. You still give chances, but starting to think he might need a couple days off because his bat has been ice cold. And really, the worst part is that he's getting opportunities to bat. He's getting opportunities to help the team with the bases loaded, and he's whiffing. He's getting into inning-ending double plays. He's just hurting the team right now with his bat, and a lot of people are panicking and worrying. Might we be seeing the decline of the great Miguel Cabrera?
Look, 162 games is a grind. All right, Miguel Cabrera at the All-Star break says that he's not going to compete in the home run derby because he needs to rest his knees, his legs, and his back. That's where all of his power comes from. That's where his quick bat speed comes from. He's sitting there dealing with some things right now, whether it just be soreness from day-to-day activities, whether he's fighting through some type of an injury. It doesn't really seem like he's hurt all that much because he's out there playing, but he might have some type of a nagging injury. Maybe he's got a sore back, shin splints, something. But all of his power comes from his lower body. That's hurting. That's lacking. I don't know if we're seeing the decline. You do have to remember, though, he is 33. He's an older player. He plays a ton of baseball. That guy, the only time he's not playing is when his body's breaking down and he's sitting on the sideline. All right? But otherwise, he is in that rotation every single day. He's out there, always manning first base, doing a really good job with it. He might be slowing down just a bit. If Miguel Cabrera is slowing down, what are we talking here? He's still hitting what? 300? Close to 300? Giving you what? 20, 25 bombs a season? Somewhere close to 100 RBI? I think you're going to take that. And I know $30 million is a huge price tag to pay for a guy like that, but I think you're going to take it. You know, I don't think we're going to see the fall off that we may be seeing with a guy like an Albert Pujols. I just don't. I think Miguel Cabrera has taken care of himself enough as long as he can sit there and manage his weight going forward. Because remember, at one point, he did kind of balloon up a little bit. Once they said, hey, we're going to put you at third base, he lost a ton of weight and got in really great shape. And he has seemed to do a pretty good job managing that as he's taken over first base and has turned himself into a really good fielding first baseman. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. I think it deserves to be discussed, and I think it is something that's there to talk about because if you look at his numbers, like you said, in opportunities when you need him to hit the ball, he's just kind of swinging and missing right now. I just think he's working through some nagging injuries. However, I'm happy that you brought up Justin Upton. This is a guy I want to talk to you about. Do you think we're going to see a revitalization this second half as opposed to what we got in that first half? Because I'm seeing, the way I'm looking at it right now, I'm seeing that we're going to have a big correction coming. I think Justin Upton's going to start hitting the ball better. If you look at what he's done the last 7 days, he's batting about 300. He's got 1 home run. He's swinging and he's making much better contact with the baseball than he was earlier in the year. And he's like a 285 hitter for his career. I think this second half of the season, he's going to get that average back up to that. I think we're in for some really good baseball from this guy.
I'm hoping, maybe getting the 200th home run in his career off, getting that monkey off his back will help him with his confidence. This is a guy that's a professional hitter. He's a guy that can provide you power and pop. But, sometimes when you go to a new situation, it just takes you a while to adjust. And when you have a guy like J.D. Martinez not in your lineup, and then hey, now pitchers are just willing to go at you and not give you those good pitches. But when I tell you the numbers combined for Miggy and Victor Martinez in July, your jaw's going to drop. 19 for 104. .183 batting average in July.
That is awful.
The combination of Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera.
That's like me out there on the softball field.
Ooh, that's
not good.
That's terrible.
Not good.
Yeah, you basically, when you look at it, though, oh my goodness, dude. When you look at it, you got Sanchez, Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera, Justin Upton, Victor Martinez making a boatload of money. and you're not getting maybe as much return on investment as you need to. And if Victor Martinez and Miggy aren't going to hit, someone's got to step up. And you know who stepped up? Castellanos has stepped up. That's
He's
a great
been playing
thing.
like a stud.
But now that gets canceled out because McCann has been brutal. McCann has been absolutely brutal hitting the baseball.
This is something I wanted to talk to you about, too. I was driving around this morning, and I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, because I knew we were going to talk about McCann coming up in the 9th inning on Tuesday night's game. And here's the thing. If you remember, before McCann got hurt earlier this season, he was hitting the tar out of the baseball. He's come back, and he just doesn't look like the same player right now. He's not hitting with the same ferocity, doesn't have the bat speed, struggles to kind of throw some guys out, whereas last year he was sitting there gunning guys down at second base. Do you think that he is still dealing with somewhat of an injury from earlier in the season? Maybe he rushed back. Maybe he needed to take more time. Maybe he got a little bit nervous because if you remember, while he was out, Salta Lamacchio was sitting there hitting home run after home run after home run, helping save this team and get wins. Do you think maybe he got a little bit nervous about his place on the starting lineup? And he was like, you know what? I got to come back. I got to get back sooner than later because I got to sit there and fight for my spot. Do you think that maybe played into it? And now what you're seeing is he's just debilitated because he's not the same player. He's just dealing with an injury. It's going to take until the end of the season for him to get over it. And it's just the way it's going to be.
And then what starts happening is when you underperform, and you got a guy like Salty who's just really, his role is going to be a backup. Now you got a situation where there's rumors swirling. Have you heard them? Jonathan LaCroix from the Brewers has been talked about. A lot of speculation that maybe the Tigers might pull a deal to try to bring him in, an all-star catcher that's batting 300 with 12 home runs, and this is a guy that's looked at as being maybe a stabilizing force. Now you hear that.
Do you like that? Do you like that option?
It's an upgrade.
I do not like it at all.
You don't like it?
I don't like it at all.
Why?
All right, because the one thing I think
Age?
this team, not so much age, it's what this team needs right now. Right now, what you need is you need help with your pitching staff, whether it be a starter or a reliever. You need one or the other, and that way you can figure out what you're going to do with your lineup, whether it be the bullpen lineup or your starting rotation, once you make a decision which way you want to go. So you get that adjusted. Remember, going into the beginning of the year, James McCann looked great, looked like an all-star. Last year, looked like an all-star. Last year, if I told you, hey, let's trade Nick Castellanos away, you said, yes, let's do it. Get him out of here. Look at what you have now. You have a guy who probably should have been in the all-star game. You have a guy who is now carrying your team. You just said it yourself. He's the one who's picking up the slack for a guy like Miguel Cabrera and Victor Martinez. James McCann might be the same thing. And I say might because we don't know. All we know is that last year, he looked like an absolute stud. This year, beginning of the season looked good, struggling right now. I think there's a stud in there. I don't want to trade him away, and I don't want to relegate him to my backup catcher and pay him the money that he would sit there and command. On top of that, he calls a really good game, and the pitching staff respects him and likes him. And he choked out Jose Iglesias. Anytime you can get a guy who will choke the shit out of a teammate, I love you. I absolutely. You know why? Because I've done that.
Exactly. So I get your point exactly in that you really want to know what the organization thinks of McCann. Hey, if they trade him off, then you'll know that they believe that, hey, he's not going to turn it around. If they keep him, maybe they trade Salty off and bring back, another catcher to help get that veteran leadership in there for a young catcher. But yeah, I think if this team didn't have a $200 million payroll and the win now mantra is, floating all around them, then you could maybe be more patient with them. But right now, cuz everybody's looking at, listen, it's probably this year or next year or else. Listen, if I'm outside,
the window is shutting.
You see, I would love to come in now because if I'm coming new to the organization right now, I'm like, okay, in 3 years we're gonna win, but I want to trade ... I want to trade ... I'm coming in with the blow this up. Now, a guy like Avila who's been there a while, he's still at the crescendo of, hey, this 2016 season is still with the window open kind of deal. Whereas I'm coming in, my new voice is like, okay, this shit's over. We're going to start new, and I'm going to target 2018, 2019, and we're going to win.
Okay, let me ask you this, all right? Because you just said something that I think a lot of our listeners feel the same exact way. You want to sit there and you want to target for the future. You want to build for the future. Who do you want to get rid of? Your top 3 guys that you would get rid of to sit there and help build for the future and what you would look for in return. I don't need name specific because we don't have enough time to sit there and do that kind of fact finding where I can be like, yes, no, maybe so. All right. And I know you don't know everybody in Major League Baseball, and I know you don't know all the prospects. Neither one of us do. All right. But who are your top 3 guys that you would trade away, either A, to free up salary cap space, or to sit there and try to get you a nice haul? And what would you look for in return?
Okay. Here's what I look for. I think for next year, 2017, Zimmerman, Verlander, Fulmer, That's pretty much reliable. Now, you need a 4th and 5th starter. You still got to wait and see what Norris is going to bring you, what Boyd's going to bring you, what other guys that you've drafted could bring you if you bring them up. But you need probably a 4 and 5 starter that are going to be reliable. So you need that, and you need maybe 1 or 2 guys in the bullpen, and you need a catcher. You need a reliable catcher. So now you got those needs, and now you could say, okay, do you say I can fill the bullpen need with Jimenez, slot him in there? Now you've reworked it with the Wilsons, with Rondon, with Jimenez, with maybe one of these guys that you have to keep around like Pelfrey. So now you can start to shake out the bullpen. That's pretty much clear. So my needs are going to be a 4 and 5 starter. So now you got some pieces that you can trade off. Maybe you trade off a Steven Moya, maybe you trade off a Nick C, or maybe you trade off a Kinsler or a V-Mart, or you trade off guys. Maybe, just maybe, you can get a 5th starter for Jose Iglesias. Maybe you can do that and plug in someone that you've drafted or a young cat out of Toledo to play shortstop. So you can do that and potentially rework things and make some moves in the free agency in the coming years to help rebuild. I think you're not that far away from adding if you find the right pieces. But see, the problem is, though, you have to be exactly accurate in who you're letting go of. Kinsler could bring you a haul. Castellanos could bring you a haul. JD could bring you a haul. But JD, you say, okay, you've seen the difference with him out of the lineup. I want him back. So I could build with JD and Castellanos and keep the older guys and then trade off Kinsler. You're going to have to, I believe, for the future. You can't keep those 5-6 guys all making, roughly taking up $140 million in cap space. Somebody has to go. Right now, Kinsler's at his peak. That's the guy, if you're looking to the future, could bring you a haul. Nick Castellanos is a young cat that's this year, right now, riding that title wave at the high point. Is he going to sustain it? You don't have evidence to say that, but he's having a great year. I think he can be a better player. He can bring you a haul. But you also say, okay, if you keep him, he could be another piece. You would wish that's why it's very important what you said. If Justin Upton can be the guy that throughout the course of another year can start hitting the baseball, mashing a little bit, hell, maybe a team that's in contention that needs a bat might look at Justin Upton as a rental for a short period of time. But in the end, I would say that the organization is going to add more pieces. They're going to be buyers for sure. Whereas I'm coming in saying I would start to sell and look, and I don't believe that any of the moves that you would make this year are going to result in that ring. So I'm saying in my spirit that I have hope that because you have assets, you move them and you get some success. Kinsler, Castellanos, Moya, Jimenez, those are 4 guys that with the right deals in place could bring you back a lot of young talent. And then you're going to have to draft correctly and make sure that you start building up the minor leagues. But this year, they're going to buy. They're going to buy, and they're going to maybe, potentially, if they don't, maybe they just say, hey, we'll stand pat and ride, we'll ride it out and roll the dice and see what we have with this group. But I don't believe in probably the organization stance that this is a team that is going to be competitive. And those are the guys I would let go of.
If they're looking to buy, I think Steven Moya is probably that guy who's going to fetch you the most that you can get. So he'd probably be on that first list out of town for whatever else is coming in. Nick C, I wouldn't touch. I think he's your piece for the future. Like you said, Nick, JD. Really surprised you didn't mention Miguel Cabrera in there. Sit there, try to trade him.
Well, you know why? Because I talked about it with Vito on his podcast, and he kind of shot me down in that number's huge, $30 million. Who can take that on? And then it's not this that.
But look,
for 5-6 more years.
Right, but look, you were able to sit there and get out from underneath the Prince Fielder deal. So if you're able to get out from underneath the Prince Fielder deal, and Prince Fielder was hitting a lot worse than Miguel Cabrera is. So
now I want to bring up a point.
I think there's a possibility that you could probably get out from underneath that contract if you wanted to.
Now I want to bring up a point with Miguel Cabrera. Are we being fair regarding his production? I understand that when you make big money, you have big expectations. So when we criticize Miguel Cabrera, you got to remember, overall, he's a still productive player. He's still hitting pretty well, 290, around 300, with around 18 home runs and 57 RBIs. Brad Ausmus was asked about Miguel Cabrera, and he was kind of like, you know what? Those numbers are not too bad. But are they indicative of a guy making $30 million? No. So, and then right now, he's struggled to the point where he's not driving runs in, and we're starting to say, okay, is this pattern going to continue? Is he going to get out of it? So are we being fair with Miguel Cabrera, or are we just saying, you know what, we're just all scared that we all know that he's got a tab that's super high, and we don't want to start seeing numbers go down? Because this year, 2016, is slated to be his worst season statistically.
I think you're being fair, and you're only being fair because
of the $30 million.
Yes, because
he's making 20. It's pretty good.
The contract is massive. The contract is astronomical. You knew when you sat there and you signed him to that deal, you were basically paying him for what he was. You knew later on as this contract went along, you were going to be left on the hook with a lot of
returns.
bad. Yeah, you knew it. You knew you were going to have a bad contract in probably about 3 or 4 years. I don't think it's coming that soon. I don't think you're going to see it this year where you're like, man, we really got stiffed with a bad contract. Again, hitting near 290 right now, 18, 19 home runs. He's okay. Plus 50 RBI. He's doing all right. He's in a little bit of a slump right now. Miguel Cabrera is a very streaky hitter. When he's on, he's super on. And when he's off, he's a little bit off. And right now, he's just a little bit off. He hasn't done a whole lot the last couple days. Like you said, you gave those numbers for July. They're pitiful. Same thing with Victor Martinez. Pitiful numbers. I expect them to get hot here coming up in the next week or two. And everything that we're talking about right now will be totally moot. There'll be no point for it. So in the end, yes, you will have diminishing returns for that contract. And that contract is going to look horrible. Right now, do I think it's bad? Do I think you're being unfair? Yes and no. And that's just because it's a lot of money to be given a guy. And you're expecting him to hit 320. You're expecting him to sit there and hit 25 home runs. And you're expecting him to drive in over 100 RBI. That's what you want from that guy. It's just not there right now. A little bit of a streak. He's kind of on the downside of it. I think it's going to come back up here in the next week or two.
Before our break, it's very imperative that the Tigers win the series versus Minnesota. Afternoon game as we're recording this. I'm hoping by the time this gets released that the Tigers take care of business and handle the Minnesota Twins. Winning series is great. If you win 2 out of 3 along the way and you handle your business on the road versus the White Sox, it could be a good week. A lot of people are expecting them to split versus the White Sox based upon the pitching matchups. We'll take it. If in a week they're still 4 to 5 games above 500, we'll be in a much better spot, and we'll probably have a more clear understanding of what they're going to do, whether it be buy or sell. And we'll still, like I said, support the Detroit Tigers and really, really hone in on what they're going to do to improve this squad, because with a couple minor adjustments, with the returning JD, and he's productive, you could see a turnaround unlike anything else. The ceiling is still fairly high for this squad, and it's just going to be incumbent upon them to really try to improve the team to actually meet those goals. Doc and Jock, episode 154, will roll along right after this commercial timeout.
Guys, Jock here for Lawrence Hunt. You guys are looking for a shirt to keep you cooler than the other side of the pillow and definitely not stuffy when you're running around the office, smelling weird, having pit stains, and a dress shirt that's wrinkled to the high heavens. This is what you need. You need Lawrence Hunt's moisture-wicking, anti-odor, breathable, 4-way stretch, 100% cotton dress shirt that's going to keep you cool like a fan in the summertime. Look, guys, I've been wearing mine for some time now, and I love them. They keep me cool, dry, and fresh-looking all day so I can handle business during the daytime and tear up the night while still looking fresh and clean. On top of it, the shirt's made, crafted, and designed by Detroiters in Detroit. To see all the incredible fashion styles Lawrence Hunt has to offer, head over to lawrencehuntfashion.com. That's lawrencehuntfashion.com. And if you use promo code DSP, guess what? We'll save you 15%. If you don't believe me, just listen to Detroit Tigers catcher James McCann.
I'm a jeans and boots kind of guy, and taking my wife out to eat, I love putting on my Lawrence Hunt dress shirt. The way they stretch, the way they feel, they move with my body just like a t-shirt would. I know that I'm wearing a dress shirt, but it really doesn't feel like it.
That's lawrencehuntfashion.com.
Joey Bosa and company, 42-13 the final.
All right. Enough of that crap.
You know what's great?
I seen you had fun with the editing software again, huh?
No, you know what it was great? When I heard that Jim Harbaugh was doing a rap video, I'm like, oh, my little brain started percolating, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'll create a song and loop it together like that, or maybe I'll create something funny where he's actually talking about Michigan State or something, but all I got to do, leave it to the Ohio State brethren. In reply to Jim Harbaugh's rap video, someone from Ohio State created this. Who's got it better than Michigan? Maybe Ohio State and Michigan State, but they put out a response to the rap video. Just maybe in our version of the Doctors in Session, we might talk about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh's rap video. But I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to what you have in store and what we call the Doctors in Session.
But But to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here, I'm the man. Woo!
I absolutely have a jam-packed edition of Docs in Session.
I was going to say, what's up with that? Every time we've been doing Docs in Session, you're getting 5, 6 questions. Are you trying to say that
I always have a lot to ask you.
All right, let's go. Let it rip.
You know what it is? Generally, the weeks that I sit there and I have questions or I have to line something up for Docs in Session.
A lot of shit's going down.
Yeah, it's a busy week. You know, Jock Jams, it's like, oh, hey, Linton Buttons. That's what we got to work with, Linton Buttons. All right, so a lot of talk this past week on what Anderson Varejao should do. So if you were in this guy's size 14 tennis shoe, what would you want the Cleveland Cavaliers to do? Would you want them to give you a championship ring or no? And if so, would you take it?
When this story came out, I was really floored. Anderson Varejao, because of the fact he played 31 games with the Cleveland Cavaliers, can technically earn a championship ring. Now, would he take it and wear it? That would be very tacky. That would be really tacky to take a ring that, you know, because of the fact that he played for the Warriors, a team that lost the title. What I would do then is, okay, if I'm entitled to a ring and the organization is willing to give it, you know those rings are potentially worth $20,000 to $50,000. What I would do is I would say, you know what? Give me the ring. I'll do an auction type thing, maybe have an event where someone can bid on it, and it'll all go to charity. Vito's got us thinking about charity and giving back, and we've been giving a lot here at the DSP, so we try to give back with contests, with experiences to people who follow us and support us, and we're always going to try and do that. But I would take it and really understand that, you know what, I didn't earn it, I didn't win it, but let me make some good of it. Give me the ring, you know, line it up with diamonds and studs, and I will auction it off, and for sure I would give back 100% of the money that I got for it and use it for charity, and that's what you should do. He should definitely take it, but never, ever wear it. That'd be ridiculous. So I would not save it for a rainy day or if he gets into money problems and, you know, find it at some pawn shop. Use it for what it's intended for. You know, when you're an athlete, you have the ability to do a lot of great things and give back a lot to the community. So take it. Hopefully it's bling bling. Hopefully Mr. Gilbert, you know, pimps it out and makes it really nice and, you know, sparkly. And you go out there and you give a whole bunch of money to whatever charitable organization you support. But it is kind of corny, though, that you could get a ring, you know, just being on the team for so long if you're not on there at the end of the year. It's really corny.
Really weird. That's not where I thought you were going to go with it all. I thought for sure you're going to be like, yeah, wear that. Because that's normally what you do. All right, sticking with the Golden State Warriors. Does Draymond Green's defiance surprise you in light of his recent comments regarding him changing his ways where he says, being me has got me this far, so I ain't changing?
Yeah, see, this is one of those things where you have to be a little bit more self-aware. Draymond Green, I understand what he's saying on the court. But if you look at it, you know, with time removed now, he basically cost the Golden State Warriors a chance to go back-to-back. He's not suspended. I think it's a 5-game series, and it's a dominating 5-game series. His antics got him suspended, and you left that door just slightly open, and LeBron wedged his way through, and look what happened. They lost the series. So on the court, I get what he's saying. He's saying, listen, I'm a grinder. I'm a guy that my role is to maybe get in the head of the opponent, maybe to be a defensive force. If I can alter the shot just a little bit, then I've done my job if I can get in their head. But unfortunately, there's a line, and Draymond crossed it because when you hurt the team, you have to change. And so I know what he's saying. He's like, well, if I change, if I become a little bit more soft, then I might be like Andre Drummond, just let everybody get to the hole. You know, I can't be like that. I got to be like Dennis Rodman. And that was a guy, I got to be like Bill Laimbeer. I got to be a guy that plays strong defense and not play like these new wave young cats that are a little bit SAWFT. You know, I got to be strong in there. And he is a guy that I respect because it's kind of like a throwback, a guy that not afraid to maybe crack you in the nuts if you need to. But in this day and age, you also have to be aware of what's going on in the league. Player safety, a little bit softer, ticky-tack calls, superstars not liking getting touched that much. So you have to find a way to play right to that line and not go over it. He did a little bit too much this year. And when you do that, you can't come out and say, it's all good, I'm not going to change. And it's starting to bleed over a little bit maybe into his personal life with some of the things we've heard off the court. So he's got to rein it in. He's got to find a way through defensive pressure, through intensity, through solid fundamentals to play great defense. And I think he'll do that. I don't see him doing it again. That would be utterly stupid if he costs his team again with play that might be considered dirty.
All right. Switching over to a little bit of football, or I guess former football, what percentage chance do you think former Detroit Lions running back Javid Best has of medaling in the 2016 Rio Olympics for St. Lucia?
I give it about 40%. And here's the thing. I'm very surprised that a lot of athletes, knowing the risks going on over there in Rio, are still going. It would be too much for me. I would be on the side of like, you know what? The Zika virus, if there's a remote chance I could come back sick, if my wife gets pregnant in the future, I wouldn't go. But hey, he's going to represent St. Lucia. It was very interesting to read about it. Dude's got speed. Dude can represent. So, hey, he hasn't done it really a whole heck of a lot, but hey, if he goes out there and, has one of those great performances, he could potentially get a bronze, silver medal. But I don't know. I don't see it because of the fact that he's not a full-time, athlete, doing the Olympics. You got to remember, it's not only him. You got to remember that for athletes that are doing the Olympics, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they're working to medal.
For like 4 years.
For like 4 years. And so they're training, they're working, they're doing what they got to do to prep themselves. I don't know if a guy like Javid Best has been putting in that much work. So I would say 40% chance, but the odds of him medaling are very, very slim.
When he played football for the Lions, he was one of the fastest guys in all of the NFL. It's a shame concussions derailed him, but he was a speedster.
Good for him, and he's taking the risk going down there to Rio, and all best to him. And it'd be great. It'd be a great story if he goes down there and wins one for St. Lucia.
Sticking with the NFL, do you believe the NFL called Mark Wahlberg to complain about the docudrama Ballers, in which they highlight the pitfalls of NFL players?
I was shocked they denied it. Of course you should call. Have you seen Ballers at all? Have you watched it?
I've never watched it,
oh
but
my
I
goodness.
know what it's about.
It's similar to ESPN's old football show. It does not paint football players in a great light.
Playmakers was incredible.
But it doesn't paint them in a great light.
I'm so upset that the NFL made ESPN get rid of that.
Well, it was, a show that did not paint footballers in
Just
the
told
greatest
it
light.
how it was.
And so does this show Ballers. It doesn't really favor, the public perception favorably of NFL athletes. So they come out and they say, well, no, we didn't. Well, why would Mark Wahlberg come out and be like, hey, I have this show to run. I tried to get these athletes to, star in the show. And hey, in the first premiere episode, Ndamukong Suh was there in the season premiere. So it's a good show. It's entertaining, but it's the side of football that you kind of know is probably there, but shouldn't be really talked about, with women, with money spending, with habits, with drugs, stuff like that. So when you shine the light on anything like that, you know that it's out there. It's just something that's not talked about too much. So if it's out there, heck no, I don't want. If I'm the NFL, I don't want my athletes going there. I'll be like, you just have to come out there and be real with people, because Wahlberg is a guy that's respected. He's got great shows. He's an actor. He's got a lot of favor. He's not going to come out there and lie.
He's got a burger joint that's going in where? Downtown, I think?
Exactly. He's been in town golfing, having a good time over the summer. Why would you lie? Just say, listen, we are...
There's no point to lie.
There's no point to lie.
The only ones that are lying here are the NFL. The NFL lies about everything and covers everything up.
It's ridiculous.
NFL is atrocious.
Exactly. And here's the thing. The truth is not that bad. You come out and say, listen, the show is a look at, the side of football that we don't really want to promote as a business. And so if our athletes are there, we don't want, maybe young, impressionable cast to see that and be like, oh, this is cool, because, hey, the star of the show is The Rock, a very popular individual. Mark Wahlberg, a very popular individual, is tied to this project. So we want to make sure that we promote family-style stuff. And while Ballers is a great show, we just maybe do not want to promote that kind of stuff to our young, impressionable fans who make up a big chunk of the pie. And so, hey.
Easily explained away.
That's it.
Easily explained away.
It goes away.
And instead, we have 3 days worth of stories because of the NFL being boners.
I think people just need to be upfront and honest, and the truth is not bad. What are you going to do? Fight that and be like, oh, yeah, stick your athletes on there, show them, having sex with people that are not their wife and doing drugs. So
but it really happens.
See,
it's real life.
Facts and the truth tend to, really stand out there. And how do you argue that? It's like, hey, we're a company, and hey, go out there, do the show. It's an accurate portrayal. Do whatever you got to do, but we just don't want our athletes showing up there. That's all.
All right. So after that rousing intro that you played there, let's talk about rapping football coaches. Why not? Figure what the hell. So rapper Bailey released the season anthem for U of M. It's called Who's Got It Better Than Us, in which Jim Harbaugh is seen through different screenshots and throughout the song screaming the title of the song and in the chorus as well. Do you like this or not at all?
See, the interesting part is that I kind of am conflicted regarding how I feel. Personally, I'm more of a laid-back kind of guy, just kind of go with the flow, not all up in everybody's business, not all the time trying to do PR. But at the same time, doing this podcast, being somebody that's talking on the internet, going out there talking to people, I get the sense of the persona of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is trying to put Michigan back on the map, and the first thing that he's trying to do is say, hey, eyes on me, eyes on Michigan. What do these young cats like? They like hip-hop. He's got a saying, he's got a slang, he's got a phrase that pays. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. And he's taking it all the way to the top. And so now I understand, and doing this podcast, I get it, because through our Twitter page, that's kind of what we're doing a little bit, is promoting our brand, promoting anything. We try our absolute best to, like, I get excited when Vinny Stubbs goes on the Drew Lane podcast. I get excited when you go on the Justin Rose web show, because you're promoting Detroit Sports Podcast. It's spreading awareness. Now, do we do it 24/7 nonstop? I'd say we're about 70% of the way there. Like, just whatever we can to do to get our name out there, we're doing it. But what Jim Harbaugh's doing is 150% balls to the wall, fifth gear. He's not stopping. And because of the fact that he's one of the only ones that does it, it's making people uncomfortable because they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle somebody that's just like unrelenting. Could you imagine, like I said, we both have jobs outside of this podcast. Could you imagine if 24/7 we were just in your face, Detroit Sports Podcast, if we were like Jumana Kairouz for a time there, where she plastered her Middle Eastern face across every single billboard on I-75, if we just put me, you, Jenna, Vinny, everywhere across Metro Detroit and every billboard, people will be like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Well,
24/7.
they would be like, what the hell are those two schmucks, or those 3 or 4 schmucks doing up there? Just put the chick up there. Let's just look at her.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to see those guys.
So he's going balls to the wall in an effort to rebuild Michigan. I understand that. I don't hate on it. But what I say is, I get this point, but now you're starting to creep into the point where your own fans are going, come on, Jim, just go out there, recruit the best players, just go out there and tell everybody, I'm Jim Harbaugh. You come here, we're going to win. Those that stay will be champions. Mantras, winning football mantras. What he's doing is the side stuff to get the attention. Now people are saying, okay, you've had a year, 10 wins, you're good. Now you put the nuts on the table. Now you have to produce on the field. Win. I think winning a winning season, beating Ohio State, beating Michigan State, will do much more for the program at Michigan than all this side stuff. I like it. It's entertaining. I get it. I'm not that old where I go, okay, he's doing hip-hop videos. He's throwing first pitches. He's doing as much as he can. I get it, because we're trying to do the same thing, just not to the level that he's doing it. I would just say for Jim, if he's listening, just back off 10%. You're going full throttle, 1,000 miles an hour. Just back off a little bit. You've now done the camps. You're now doing these rap videos. Just talk about football. Just relax. Get your guys ready to play top-notch Big Ten football. Wins against your competition will do much more and make his job easier.
So if D'Antonio did this, you wouldn't like it at all?
If Mark D'Antonio did it, I would be shocked.
But if he did, would you like it?
Would I like it? No.
I love this.
You love it?
I love this.
Really?
I think it's great. Like, if you listen to the lyrics of the song, it's kind of funny because Bailey has a little bit of a grasp of what goes on at Michigan, but there are certain, like, he sits there and shouts out Tom Brady for doing great things. I mean, if you really go back and you look at what Tom Brady did, he kind of got hosed because Drew Henson had to sit there and play. So it wasn't like Brady was great. Brady got great when he ended up going to the NFL, but I thought it was great. I loved it. I thought it was outstanding. Jim Harbaugh is an absolute maniac. Jim Harbaugh rolling around in, I believe it was a yellow Lamborghini with this guy, and in the background you see Jim Harbaugh mouth rapping to the song. I absolutely loved it. I was like, Jim, you are the truth. Jim Harbaugh is a maniac. You're absolutely right. And he is unrelenting. And he is in your face.
Okay, you know what we can do?
And that's what he does.
Okay, let's just sit back, enjoy a little of it, and when you're ready, when you've had enough of it, let's just see, let's let everybody hear what we're talking about. This is the unedited version of the Jim Harbaugh song, not the one that's put out by Ohio State in retaliation. This is what everyone's been talking about.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody. 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 Who's got it better than us?
Right off the bat, I want to go sit there and I want to go lift the world. I just want to bench press everything, like 450 pounds. Instantly pumped.
They might have done a better job if he's like actually dancing in it or put on the garb.
Just him screaming.
Who got it better? Nobody. to the field from the tailgate party. Let's go blue, yeah, the home team. This the big house, Michigan Wolverines. If it ain't real, it ain't right. If you can't take a hit, take a hike. The legendary Big Ten champ said right. Motion Beckler motivated the might. Force so strong, it's on Saturday nights. Howard, Woodson, Brady took it to heights. Let's ball, held to the victors, that's above all. I got one question, tell them Harbaugh.
It's great, dude. This is the workout anthem. It's going on my MP3 player.
All right.
You've had enough?
I've had enough.
That's right, maize and blue. That's
Just keep
Maize
playing.
and blue, hippity hoppity, all that
Just
good
keep
stuff.
playing it, bro.
Listen.
I just want to go lift things.
It's good stuff, right?
Yeah, I liked it.
It's good stuff.
I thought it was entertaining. Again, I think Jim Harbaugh, what he does with these silly things, these antics, as you like to call them, he's relating to players. He's showing that he has a different side, a different approach to different things.
He's just different. Yep.
So
And
I think
balls
it's
to the
great.
wall promotion. Listen, if that's your job full time, I have a lot of respect for him doing it because that's what he's doing. He's going balls to the wall. He's like, listen, you guys do 100%. You guys just roll out your green, Sparty. You guys roll out your, Ohio. You guys do you. I'm going to do me, and let's see what happens. This football year is going to be great because you're going to have to, at some point, show up on the field, and let's see what you got. And by all accounts, he's going to do a great job. And so being different is great. It's unique. It's just also now, when you do stuff like that, you're going to ruffle the feathers. And hey, maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll take stock in what Jim Harbaugh's doing and start planting our faces everywhere and start doing rap videos and start making our own mantras and be like, you know what? We're still here. DSP all the way in 2016. We could have some fun with it.
Dude, if college game day comes to Michigan or Michigan State, we've got to get giant placards of our heads
Exactly.
made, and you can just see us in the back.
That's what I'm thinking. We have that in us. There's no doubt about it. We got a little bit of Harbaugh in us. And so if that's the way we want to do it, maybe we'll start sticking big DSPs all over the place. Maybe we'll do it.
You got about, what, 6 inches of Jim Harbaugh on you?
Yeah, very funny.
All right, let's take a break on that. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some Lions when we come back.
I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to TopCatTeamSales.com. That's TopCatTeamSales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat. I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests, take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful. DetroitSportsNation.com. Yes, sir. Doc and Jock having a great old time. Episode 154. Man, oh man, we got to talk football. It's getting closer. Training camp is just around the corner. And the Lions almost made some news with the potential of Arian Foster coming in. It kind of set off some speculation regarding the running backs. But, a lot of people are talking about the rankings and what's going to shake out. Obviously, the big question that's kind of, been speculated about really now with the Lions is what's going to happen with Stafford. What kind of season is he going to need to maybe break the bank? Does he have to basically earn it this year? Because some people are just thinking, hey, if he just shows up there and is still, walking around on 2 feet, that he's going to be the quarterback that's highly paid. But the Lions, this is a really, like every season, is a year that is going to really define what's going to happen in the future. If you bottom out with this schedule, you're going to be looking at huge turnover in terms of coaching. Jim Caldwell has a lot to prove still. The offensive and defensive sides of the ball have a lot to be, they have a lot to prove. The defense, I think, has a little bit more to prove than the offense because a lot of people on the surface are looking at the defense going, It might need a little bit more work, but I want to start off with the positives in that if you look at the offensive unit, I know people are talking that, hey, you lost Calvin Johnson. It's going to be a devastating loss. But I do think they've done quite a bit to kind of reshape that offense. And with guys emerging, with the free agents that you brought in, and with a little bit more experience in a consistent regime under Jim Bob Cooter, I think this offense has a chance to produce a lot this year. And I think that the emergence of veterans and guys that you brought here could be something that's really impressive. So I'm curious to ask, who do you think on the offensive side of the ball is going to have his best year in 2016?
In order for this team to be successful, it's got to be Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has to come out and has to prove to everybody else that he's not a one-trick pony, that Calvin Johnson wasn't the reason that offense was productive, and Calvin Johnson wasn't the reason that Matt Stafford was able to get all of those numbers. The defenses that he's going to be facing this season are going to be totally different than any defense he has faced in his entire career. So in order for this team to sit there and be competitive at any level, Matt Stafford has to be the best player on that offensive side of the ball. They have kind of a bevy of running backs. They've got some different wide receivers. That offensive line has been reshaped and remanufactured. They've invested a lot of draft picks and a lot of money and a lot of time in making that offensive line something better. I think if that offensive line can take a step forward, help protect Matt Stafford a little bit more, that'll elevate him. But again, like you said, you've got some consistency with your coach. You're going into this season. I think Matt Stafford has to be the most competitive and most complete player he has been in years. And that's the only way this team will do anything on the offensive side of the ball.
I believe that Marvin Jones is going to be very key for this offense. Playing second fiddle to A.J. Green, it allowed A.J. to do big things and also allowed Marvin to do big things. Now that he's coming over here to Detroit, I think that if he plays up to par, if he can be that key free agent addition, then my guy that's going to have the breakout year and really cement himself as a guy that's going to do big things, Golden Tate. I think that in another year in this offense, more chemistry with Matthew Stafford, and if Marvin Jones can be that alternate threat, then you got a guy that in Golden Tate that can be the guy you throw the ball short to. He can have a lot of yards after the catch, which he's very much known to do. So Golden Tate, I believe, is poised and ready to be a leader. He wants to take that role. He has experience. I do believe he's going to evolve. He wants to be a leader on this team. So my guy, the guy that I believe is going to take that next step this year and really help out, is going to be Golden Tate, because talkers in the league definitely want to prove themselves. And as long as the secondary guys can help out, then Golden Tate should be a guy that's going to put up big numbers this year.
So you're expecting to see, I believe it was that 1998 Minnesota Vikings offense, where you had basically Golden Tate would be your Chris Carter, Marvin Jones would be your Randy Moss taking the top off the defense, and Matt Stafford's got to sit back there and be Randall Cunningham just without the speed, I guess. Is that kind of what you're expecting here?
Exactly. I think that the offense can be a little bit less predictable and they can do some damage. Look what they did the last 8 games. I think that everyone was trying to stop them and they just held the ball quite a bit. They were very proficient. Matthew Stafford was moving the ball around and they scored a lot of points and they won a lot of games. So why not continue in that same mold? Keep the momentum rolling, continuity in the coaching staff, a little bit, maybe less reliant upon a home run threat. Maybe Matthew Stafford evolves and is the guy that you and the rest of the city wants to, really promote and believe in. If he's that guy, then I think the offense can put up some big-time numbers. Now, the concern for most people is that defense. A lot of question marks because you got returning guys from injury, you have guys that you've lost, and now you're looking at, okay, is this defensive line going to continue to emerge? Are guys like Ansah going to continue to emerge? Is the linebacking core going to be able to stop the run? Is the secondary really up to par? You got a lot of question marks there. And so I'm thinking, do you think they take a step forward, stay stagnant, or take a step back in terms of rankings and stats in 2016?
There's a ton of question marks on this defense. And everything with this defense is going to depend on 3 guys. It's going to depend on how DeAndre Levy comes back from injury. If he's that same impactful linebacker that he was before he got hurt, then yes. Darius Slay, there was a lot of talk about his contract going into this offseason and what he wants to get paid and where he thinks he belongs in the pantheon of cornerbacks that are out there. If Darius Slay goes out there and shows that he's a top 7 cornerback, then yes. Ziggy Ansah, if he continues to sit there and improve, remember, the only person who challenged him for the sack title last season was a guy named J.J. Watt, who I think we all agree is probably the best defensive end in the NFL. If Ziggy Ansah can sit there and take another step forward and develop and become that much better, then absolutely. But you need these three guys pulling the rest of that defense forward in order for them to sit there and take that next step forward. If for some reason DeAndre Lovey's not the same player, or he's not 100% healthy going into this season, that's going to be a big loss. Same thing with Darius Slay. Darius Slay is your shutdown corner. You know, we've always talked about how we wanted one. Well, we kind of have one now. And Ziggy Ansah, that was a guy who, when the Lions drafted him, I sat there, I screamed at my TV, and I came inches from throwing my remote control through the TV because I did not want him. This is a guy who was from BYU, played one season of football, and the Lions were like, yeah, let's go get him. He looks good. And you know what? They were dead right. Dead right. The guy's an animal. He's a monster. But he has to continue to sit there and show that and develop. He's got to sit there and become as good as J.J. Watt, if not better. Again, like I said, the only guy who challenged J.J. Watt for the sack title was Ziggy Ansah. They were neck and neck for most of the season. So if these three guys can show up, they're healthy, they play well, then yes, I think they take that step forward, and I think that defense is impactful. If not, if for some reason one of these guys has a weak link or something crazy happens to one of them, I think you're taking a step backwards.
Are you do you find yourself getting excited with anticipation of seeing what the new regime under Bob Quinn is going to look like, how Jim Caldwell is going to continue to emerge? Now, did you hear the news of what they did? They finally hired a guy, I believe Maryland's ex-coach, to come in and be the guy that's going to be like, hey, Jim, nudge him a little bit and be like, wake your ass up. This is what's going on in the field. You know, it's a quick-paced game, kind of to be the late-game strategy manager, and one that we've all talked about because there was quite a bit of time where late in games, they wouldn't have the right guys on the field, they wouldn't have the proper strategy, they'd give up plays late. So the Lions went out there and have said, you know what, we need a guru to kind of strategize and kind of be that guy that kind of advises us late in games, because where do the key mistakes, make? The Lions are in games. Where were the mistakes made? A lot of them were made later in the game, so they got a guy to help out Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, they bring in Randy Edsall. He's going to be their strategy manager. I'm using finger quotes here. So it'll be interesting. You know what? And I think that's going to help Jim Caldwell. That's going to make Jim Caldwell's life that much easier, because late game situations, he was absolutely deplorable. We can sit there and we can point to a number of instances last season. You had the ball get knocked out of the end of the end zone in Seattle. You had that horrific Hail Mary play against Green Bay. I mean, and those are just two right off the top of my head. There were probably 3 or 4 that, if they had Randy Edsall last season, might have helped avoid those situations. And this, I think, helps Jim Caldwell try to keep his job, because going into the 2017-2018 season, I don't know if there's any chance that he can sit there and still be the Lions head coach, aside from posting a winning record. I think if they go 500, I think he's probably going to lose his job. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but they have to sit there and they have to have a winning season for him to sit there and to be able to be brought back. I don't believe Jim Caldwell was the hire that Bob Quinn originally wanted. I think Bob Quinn seen an opportunity here, kind of sat there, appeased most of the players, appeased Martha Ford, and was able to sit there and say, hey, you know what? I just bought myself an extra year. I can sit there and I can add a couple pieces, get things adjusted the way I want them to be adjusted, and if it all fails this first season, or if I don't have enough pieces, I haven't gone out there and got enough for this team to sit there and make it competitive, Jim Caldwell's my scapegoat. I can put it all off on Jim Caldwell. We'll blow him out. We'll get my coach that I want in here, and we'll sit there and we'll rock and roll year 2. And that's kind of how I think this season has set up. So Jim Caldwell's back's against the wall. They bring in Randy Edsall. That helps him out a ton, but he's got to have a winning season in order to be around for 2017-2018.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Jim Caldwell, his effectiveness, and really a lot of similar comparisons to the Tigers manager in Brad Ausmus, in that they're locker room guys, they're guys that promote leadership, guys want to play for, runs a good ship. That's one side of the equation. On one side of the coaching equation, he gets an A. Now, in-game managing, he gets a C. In that, in the game, it's fast-paced. You got to make quick decisions. You got to make impactful decisions. You got to be bold. And
you mean having a guy guarding the 40-yard marker is not impactful? That's not a good decision?
You got to make sure your special teams rolls out 11 guys. You got to make sure...
counting to 11. I forgot about that.
You got to make sure you don't tell this to the media.
You're kind of looking for more of that pass back and forth kind of thing.
Yes.
You know, you want to make sure that on Hail Marys, you set up properly defensively so that when the similar play happens again, you don't make the same kind of mistakes. So you want to be efficient, and so maybe they're trying to help him out. But the schedule plays
John,
good for him.
John, hold on 1 second. So you mean to tell me if you are 75 yards away from the end zone, you're going to sit there and you're going to backwards lateral the ball all the way down into the end zone?
Listen, don't go all Dungeon of Doom on the man. He's
I'm
old.
just asking.
Respect
I'm
your
just
elders.
asking.
Why don't you respect your elders?
You're kind of looking for more of that pass back and forth kind of thing.
Yes, thank you. That's
Listen,
what I was looking for.
Respect the man. He's been in football for such a long time. Don't
Yeah.
you have no respect for your elders?
No, I don't. I just, not when you're an idiot. I have no respect for you.
They're trying to help him out. The schedule, if you look at it objectively with the moves that they've made, with barring massive injuries, they should go 9-7, 10-6. A lot of good matchups, a lot of easier matchups. And so, a question I pose to you, and one that I'm hoping you get excited about is: let's look at this schedule. Is there a game on there that gets you excited? And so, for me, it's right off the bat, game one. Who do they play? One that maybe, if we get it all together, we can get out there and go. Indianapolis is only like 3.5 hour drive away. Just go out there, and I'm not going to don my Lions gear or nothing. Just go out there as a casual citizen, see what the vibe is about, opening game.
Don that gear, bro. Don that gear.
The Lions open the season against Indianapolis. The first game, it gets me excited. You know why?
And the highest paid quarterback
Exactly.
in the league.
And Stafford's trying to be that guy. Andrew Luck got a massive deal. Now you get two guys that are, the storylines are going to be great. You're going to have video packages of Matthew Stafford. You're going to have Andrew Luck's game where he comes back at Ford Field, does his thing. I think his rookie year, he comes back. I think that was the year Arians was there, and he got to take over for the head coach who had cancer. He comes down and, leads the team to a victory late in the game, and now you got two up-and-coming quarterbacks, and that first game excites me. I want to see how Stafford kicks it off because it seems like it's going to be a go-get-'em kind of game. It could be an offensive game and one where, hey, if Luck does great, how does Matthew Stafford respond? The first game of the year is, typically a game where you let it rip, you let it go, and you see what you can do. And on the road, I think the Lions can go there and really start the year off as underdogs, and they can go out there and really prove to the Colts and Andrew Luck that, hey, we're serious. The Colts have a reshaped offensive line. Luck sometimes makes bad throws. You can do some things defensively, and I think, September 11th, 4:25 start, I'll be super excited. I'm thinking that first game, if all shakes out, if we get to that game pretty much healthy, I would think the Lions could come away with a win.
There are 2 weeks that I've got circled on my calendar. One is week 10. That's your bye week. I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm not trying to be funny, all right?
It is funny.
All right, it's your bye week. You are sitting there coming off back-to-back weeks where you sat there, you played in Houston, you played in Minnesota. If you can sit there and get into that bye week and you can win in both those weeks and you have a couple wins early on in the season, I think you're sitting pretty. And I think there's a lot that we can digest at that time about what this team's going to be. My other game that I got circled is that Monday night, December 26th game against Dallas, in Dallas. Now, these are road games, and on the road, the Lions generally don't do well. At this point in the season, December 26th, we're going to know everything we need to know about this team. Either you're going to be totally checked into this team because they're sitting there fighting for a playoff spot and they're fighting to win their division, or you're totally checked out because the team isn't worth a damn. So December 26th and the bye week in week 10, those are my 2 weeks that I'm sitting there looking, and I'm looking intently to see what this team's going to be bringing to the table. Because at those points, there'll be a lot for me to digest, a lot for me to look at, and I can actually make a good assessment on what this team is.
This season for you, a lot of people are looking at it like, okay, the schedule is favorable. A lot of good things could happen for this Lions team. Are you feeling like you're a little bit more hopeful, wait and see approach, a little bit more pessimistic? I know with the Lions, it's hard to kind of talk early on and be like, yeah, they can do some things. But you got to remember, when you look at a team, you look at how they're trending. And you got a guy in Bob Quinn that seems, by all accounts, to know what he's doing. He's setting his system in place. He's done some things that you can question, yes, but the talent is evolving. You believe there's more talent than before. Yes, in year one of his regime, he's going to have to, make some key decisions in terms of when guys go down or when there's things that need to take place quickly, how he, reshapes the roster. But I have a little bit more hope because it's new. With a new team and a new, kind of energy, I think this Lions team can be can have some success this year. But for me, my thing is this: how is Matthew Stafford going to be judged, and what does he got to do in order to earn that big fat contract? Because the onus is going to be on him. He's the face of the franchise. My expectation, minimally, at least 9-7, 10-6, get to the postseason. He must get at least one playoff win. You get that playoff win, it may not totally change my mind in terms of do I think he deserves that big money deal, but it'll make it easier to accept if he at least gets a playoff win and we see signs of upward mobility and progression.
Going into the season, I'm taking the wait-and-see approach. I don't think you're going to know what you've got with a general manager like Bob Quinn until season 2. At that time, you're going to have a whole season underneath him to kind of see what he's done, what he needs to kind of work on, and what he needs to build. I'm really concerned about Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford is the key for this offense and for this team. This team will only go as far as Matt Stafford will take them this season. And that being said, that puts a lot of onus on Jim Caldwell to sit there and get his coaches to sit there and roll out the best lineup and the best plans of action for these teams. So wait and see approach for me. Matt Stafford has a ton to prove. Jim Caldwell has a lot to prove. Bob Quinn, I don't know what we have in him until probably next year's draft. After next year's draft, I think at that time, we will have a good grasp on what we have, whether or not we have a general manager who's worth a damn, or we just have another schmo who wears a sweet suit and has a cool title.
And besides on the field stuff, which is going to be a ton, we're going to have a lot to chew on with the Lions for sure every week, which is, something that we're going to try and do our best to bring you guys in the know and give our strong opinions. But be prepared for a change. I think Bob Quinn is really tightening the reins on information being released. Don't expect a lot of things to come out of that, of Allen Park or, out of there in Detroit from the Detroit Lions. When they have these press conferences, be prepared for a lot of canned answers. Be prepared for a lot of, half-truths and denials and PC answers, because Bob Quinn comes from New England. And New England, their motto is, don't tell anybody anything. Just speak to the reporters from DetroitLions.com and do your quick 5-minute videos there. And when you talk to the media, just give kind of answers that lead you to really nothing. So that's what he's going to try to do. I'm very fascinated to see if the media is going to press him or how Jim Caldwell is going to address further discussions with the media, because I think it's starting to be a cute cat and mouse game with, hey, let's see what Caldwell is going to say today. And some of these questions that are being asked, our follow-up questions are a little bit more intense. So we'll see if, let's just say over under 4 times. How many times does Jim Caldwell pop off to the media? I say over. Yeah.
Over. At least 6. At least 6
Yeah, if he's
times.
going to say things like this.
You're kind of looking for more of that pass back and forth kind of thing.
What's that? He's going to be like, are you questioning me? Why are you asking? Are you looking at my training camp regime? Is that your problem? He's a little testy.
Why do you have a guy guarding the 40-yard line?
So we'll see how it rolls out, and definitely we'll be here to break it down in an unbiased, uncensored way, which makes it totally enjoyable. Thank you, cuz. Another one in the books. We just turn on the mics and 80 minutes just flies by. My goodness.
Rock and roll.
Yes, sir. Episode 154 in the can. Let's get out of here, enjoy the week, and hopefully the Tigers have a great week along the way and win this series versus Minnesota and go out there and do some damage versus the White Sox.
Go Tigers.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.